Teacher besties, a non-negotiable around here is that we are not letting our students talk over us during our lessons. We are not nagging, we are not yelling, we are not asking them multiple times to be quiet and stop talking. I have effectively taught for 13 years in a very chatty, very chaotic environment, and this has been the norm for me. So let me show you how you are going to enter like this happy, peaceful, productive teacher era. If you are new here, come in. We are just like you. We are teachers. We want to love our jobs. We do love our jobs. We also know that if we tighten up our classroom management a little bit or a lot, it'll make our lives so much better. I'm your teacher big sister, and I have been there, done that, and I am on my noble quest of helping teachers find the joy in teaching again. Our classrooms are running themselves. We are organized. We are systematic. We have high standards for our students. Our lessons are lessoning, and I'm going to help you guys get there, but in like a realistic, vibey, things I can actually use in my classroom tomorrow type of way. So whether you are still prepping for the new year or you are already hot and heavy into the new year and your honeymoon phase is coming to an end, we are going to get this talking under control once and for all. Let's go. Okay, getting right to it. The main mistake that I see when teachers have this issue of like their classes will not stop talking, it's just like this cycle of like kids are talking, you nag, it knocks it back down a little bit, and then you nag again, like they get too loud, they can't control themselves. It knocks it back down just a little bit, we nag again, like it's just like this cycle of constant, like whack-a-mole, trying to keep student voices under control. First of all, like I said, that ends today. We're not doing that over here. I know, easier said than done, but I'm gonna give you guys the actual steps to do it. One, we need to move from like a reactive classroom management strategy to a more proactive. And what I mean by that is that we have to set up things in place where students know exactly when throughout the school day they are allowed to talk and exactly when they are supposed to be silent and what will happen if they choose to talk when they are supposed to be silent. So what that means is that we're gonna have to set up in our mind and then with our students times of day when students are talking and when they're supposed to be silent, or if they are talking, like what is the expectations for that type of talking, if that makes sense. So let that be like a little bit of like a mindset shift. We're not just letting our students just kind of like talk in general throughout the day. We are going to be proactive in setting up these systems. Our students may talk during these times and our students are silent during these times. And let this next point be another mindset shift for you. Your voice should hold power with your students. That means that when you speak, your students should stop and they should listen. Yeah, I know, easier said than done, but trust me, anyone, no matter what your demeanor is, what your voice sounds like, this can be done. The first thing you're going to do is that we're going to put in systems to where you are not going to be nagging, you're not going to be fussing, you're not going to be yelling, you're not going to be repeating directions multiple times. All that does when we do those things as teachers, it devalues our voice. It shows that we are out of control. We're getting mad. They don't have to listen when we give them directions. They don't have to listen when we redirect them. That's what we are communicating non-verbally when we are constantly nagging. I know I sound like a broken record, but it is so important. I will say it in every single video multiple times. What we want to do is whatever expectation we set, we want to maintain our class like in that top 95 to 100% of complying with the expectations that we set. What I mean by that is at any given moment, if we give an expectations that our students are, working silently on independent work while you're pulling a small group or something, if my expectation is that they are working silently, I'm not letting my class devolve into like 3/4 of the kids are actually on task and working independently, working silently. I'm not letting that further devolve into a pocket of kids over here are like talking and playing. They're doing it quietly, but they're still talking and playing. I'm not letting that devolve into, oh, that one kid over there just does whatever he wants. Like we're maintaining all those little tiny little things, all those tiny little 5% things. We're nipping them in the bud because just like debt or just like gaining and losing weight, it is so hard once you have like all this work to do, all this like work to catch up on, all of these behaviors you need to fix, it's so much easier to just stay on top of it, fix those tiny little things as you go. Because like I always say, keep this in mind, if you're mad, you have let it go too long. We are nipping all those little tiny 5% things in the bud to where we're not getting mad. Things aren't getting out of control. We haven't lost our cool. So like I said, the first thing that you're going to do is make a list of times in your classroom from the moment your students set foot in your classroom to the moment they get their little tails on that bus. You are making a T-chart of times that we do talk and times that we do not talk. So open up your notes app in your phone right now, get a piece of notebook paper, and please know that while you're making this list, some non-negotiables that I highly recommend, I will explain in just a minute, but I highly recommend that you add to that we are silent side is your transitions. So anytime your students are moving from one activity to another, one subject to another, one chunk of your day to another, they're physically moving around the room, those times should be silent. That is when, if you like reflect on your classroom and like the issues that you have, that is when behaviors happen. During transition times, that is when behaviors happen. And then obviously independent work. I know for me, my students cannot handle being able to talk at their table groups while they're working on independent work. So I made this list on my own ahead of time. And then this anchor chart is from a morning meeting lesson that we did. I do this lesson every year at the beginning of the year, and it really sets the tone, sets my expectation. My students know black and white what my expectations are with talking. In my class, we do not talk during transitions. So that means entering my classroom, our morning routine, our pack-up routine, whenever I have 3 classes, so whenever we are switching classes, that pack-up time to switch class, we're putting our Chromebooks away, we're moving from math to science, we're moving from our seats to the carpet for readers workshop. Anytime that a speaker is speaking, usually it's me or the announcements or another student is sharing, we're not talking. Those are like hard non-negotiables for me. During this morning meeting lesson, we also talk about why we have the expectation of needing silent time to work. And then on the other side of things, we also talk about like, what is the point of us talking in class? We're doing it to learn. We're doing it to learn to work with others. We're doing it to cooperate. We're doing it to build our social skills, make friends, solve problems. So this is a great lesson. I also have this in my morning meeting starter guide. I have like tons of different morning meeting lessons of stuff like this that like helps us build like skills to function and work in the classroom and manage behaviors. Also, 100% another non-negotiable for me is I also, whenever I'm teaching my routines and procedures at the beginning of the year, I always include an expectation for talking. So if I'm talking about sharpening pencils, I'm gonna have an expectation for, are they talking or are they not? Moving from getting their backpacks to their seats in the afternoons, I have an expectation on, are they talking or not? Raising their hand during math workshop and waiting for me to come help them, I have an expectation on, are they talking or not? Coming to the carpet, lining up, fire drills, group work, our slow start in the morning. I have, anytime that I am teaching one of those routines and procedures, I include an expectation. I make it very clear on, are my students allowed to talk during this time or not? If they are allowed to talk, what does it sound like? So like I said, my non-negotiables, I have 3 of them. One of them is that my students are not talking while I am talking. While I'm giving direct instruction, I am teaching, my students are expected to be silent with their eyes on me. I already explained how we're not letting students talk over us. It devalues our voice. What we say is important. So let that speak for itself. Another non-negotiable of mine is during transitions. Like I said, this is when behaviors happen. It also sets the tone for your class. So just like imagine when your students come into your class, whether you are, you have 7 blocks of math or your students are coming into your class and they're kindergartners in the morning. How your students move into your classroom sets the tone for your whole class. If students are allowed to talk and just like come in, however, it takes so long. It takes like 10 minutes to get them settled down and onto like your learning or get class started. However, in my classroom, other classrooms that I've been in, successful mentor teachers, veteran teachers, they have students that are silent when they come into their classrooms. They have exact steps of what students should do when they're coming into the classroom. Step 1, you go get your math notebook. Step 2, you go straight to your seat. You do it silently. Step 3, you read the warm-up on the board. Step 4, open your notebook and get to work. Work until the timer goes off. Work independently. Work the whole time. Like it's structured. It's not all willy-nilly. If your kids are crazy coming into your classroom, you like can't get your life together. They can't get their lives together. And it's implicitly showing your kids, it's non-verbally communicating. Their class is just like, they're in charge. They can do whatever they want. Like you don't really have an expectation for them. And then my third non-negotiable is independent work. This is what works best for me and my students. I know that if I allow my students, like we don't have any gray area. It's black or it's white. We either can talk or we're silent. They cannot handle like talking while they work. It just gets out of control. We're not finishing our work. We're off task. We have questions that I shouldn't need to repeat. I shouldn't need to answer because I already gave those directions. I'm constantly nagging. We're constantly off task. There's behaviors. I don't know what to do. I'm having to reteach. We wind up doing the whole lesson together. They're not actually learning. Like it's just not a great like learning environment to be in. Okay, so for a second, let's move on to the we can talk side of our T-chart, the times that we are allowed to talk. You have to have like very clear expectations. Again, I know, broken record. You have to have very clear expectations for what that talking looks and sounds like. A great solution to this is voice levels. What's great about that is that voice levels have like clear criteria for what your voice should sound like on each voice level. Like level 0 is silent. We're silent because of like, we need to focus on our learning, or it's a safety thing. This is independent work. This is fire drills. Criteria for level 1 voices, that's like your turn and talks, that's partner work. It's also good if you're using these voice levels, or maybe you just have like an anchor chart of what your expectations are for each voice level. It's great to have like a visual. If you have a hard time like keeping up with like anchoring what your voice level is, make it a student's job. They can go move the clothespin to show what the voice level is. You use like classroom screen and that's up while your students are working. Just add, if you have like a must do, can do up on your board while your students are working, add on there along with your timer what the voice level is. Have a little spot where your voice level is always posted, level 0, level 3, level 2, whatever it is. Another thing that's great about these voice levels is that this gives you something to fall back on when you do need to redirect. Like I said, we're not nagging constantly. We have like a clear expectation for what our students should be doing. If I have a small group at my table and my students are like working in partners on like their math work, the expectation is that they're supposed to be a level 1. If it gets too loud, if I hear something suddenly, I can use my attention getter, get everyone's focus on me, and I can say our expectation is that we're at a level 1 for partner work. I just heard a level 3 voice out there. If it happens again, blank will happen. Notice how I'm like very clearly restating the expectation, what just happened that broke the expectation, and what will happen next if it happens again. And trust that I will act on whatever consequence it was I just threatened. The next thing you need to do, if you have already started school and you have not done this, you are doing this tomorrow. This is your homework. An attention getter, a strong attention getter with your students will make you immortal. Literally, you can do anything. You could run field day as long as you have a good attention getter, okay? So if you have yet to go back to school, you're teaching that on day 1. That is literally one of the first things that I teach my students. Things are so chaotic on the first day of school, like you need a great attention getter. And like I said, if you have already started school and you have not taught an attention getter to your students, that is your homework. Some criteria for your homework, for your teaching your attention getter. Use 1. Please just use 1, maybe 2. One that you use like in your classroom, like on the daily, and then like another one for like field trips, lunch duty, recess, things like that. It is not good. It is not helpful to do like a ton of different like cutesy call and response attention getters. We don't want to do a bunch of things like mid. We want to do one thing really, really well. Ms. Phillips, what attention getter do you use? I use a countdown. I think it is elite. Imagine like you're at a professional development and they're having you do like a turn talk, or you're talking at a table and they like immediately cut you off. As adults, like we want to finish what we were saying. No one likes to be like immediately cut off, like you're being interrupted. And please trust that students are going to finish their thought later, or they're not going to give you that great of a response in anyways because they know it's just going to be cut off abruptly. That's why I love a countdown. You can also use your countdown as like having your foot on the gas or on the brake. Like you can speed up and slow down that countdown to kind of like adjust to what your students are doing. And like I said, if I'm doing morning duty in the gym or lunch duty in the cafeteria, I use, if you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap 3 times. Because that one you can just keep going and going and going until you have 100% compliance, 100% of your students' attention on you, and it carries well, like volume wise. So just like with any routine and procedure, you need to roll this out to your students and practice it. I have like a whole lesson on this, like exactly how I do it in my example breakdown on my website. I will link it in the description for you guys. It has how I teach every routine and procedure, exactly what I do. But in a nutshell, I say like, this is how I'm gonna get y'all's attention. This is what I expect. I'm gonna start counting down. I want your voices off. I want your hands still, nothing in your hands, and I want your eyes on me. So when I start counting down, that means you need to start wrapping up your conversation, finding your stopping point. By the time I get to 0, I want 100% of your eyes on me. I want to see nothing in your hands, and I want to see your body still. Okay, let's practice. I want you to turn to your shoulder partner, and I want you to talk about blank, something silly, whatever. Okay, our voices are off in 5. Eyes are on me in 4. Nothing in our hands in 3. I'm waiting on one person, 2. Great, 100% of us are ready in 1. Whatever it is that you told your students to do, enforce that 100%. That's School of Miss Phillips 101, is that whatever expectation you set, you are sticking to it 100%. Some tips for making sure that you like execute this flawlessly, it lasts you all year, your students know that you mean business. When you start counting down, have some type of visual. I usually move myself to like the front and center of the room. You can also put your hand up and count down like with your hand, some type of like visual signal. There's also a teach like a champion strategy. You guys know I love my teach like a champion. It's called be seen looking. And that means that whenever you give your students an expectation, you are like dramatic in making sure that you are monitoring and your students see that you are monitoring. If you give an expectation and then you like turn your back and you're like shuffling some papers, your kids are out doing whatever and they know that you're not really paying attention. You want to hold them accountable by watching for 100% compliance. When you reach 1 or 0 with your countdown, you're stopping and you're being dramatic. You're pausing to monitor. You can positively narrate what you're seeing out there. Great, I see that the red table is 100% eyes on me. Thank you, yellow table, for making sure that your desks were cleared off. I'm still waiting on one at the purple table. Still waiting. Like I'm reinforcing what I want to see and redirecting the things that aren't meeting my expectations. And please, number 1, most important, it's going to be tough at the beginning of the year. Like you're really going to have to stick to it. Do not let it go below 100%. If you gave an expectation, your students, especially at the beginning of the year, they're going to test to see how much they can get away with. If you told them to be silent, some of them are going to try to see, what does she really mean about silent? What is she going to do if I start doing this? What is he going to do if I start doing this? And then that's setting the standard for the rest of the year. They know that that's what you're okay with. They know that that's what you're going to do when they do that. So that's what needs to change from here on out if you want your class to run itself by October. If you want to be the teacher that can silence a room by walking in the door. If you are done nagging, yelling, repeating yourself, letting students talk over you, that's what has to change. You are like very intentionally monitoring for 100% meeting your expectations. Now, I know what you're going to say. What do we do when students inevitably talk? We will talk about that. Okay, and then another thing we need to keep in mind, not so much for like transitions or walking in the hallway, is like in that class time, like when you're doing, let's say a direct teach, you're doing your mini lesson, you are speaking and your expectation is that your students are silent. Keep in mind that they're kids. We have to keep that time that we are talking and expecting our students to be silent, like pretty short. Like I say max, having them be still and like just absorbing what you're telling them for 15 minutes is pushing it. Sure, there are lessons where you're teaching for like 30 minutes. I understand. That's why it's important to give them like tasks while you're working, breaking up your lesson with turn and talks. I do, we do, you do. We're filling in graphic organizers. Finish this sentence and I'm gonna call on someone random after 1 minute. I have a whole video on like weaving those tasks into your instruction. It's called like room transformations versus actual engagement. I highly recommend. It's got tons of strategies in there to like keep your kids engaged while you're giving direct instruction. Because if we're expecting our students to just like sit there and like absorb what we're telling them for 20 minutes, one, that's sage on the stage. Two, they're not paying attention and they're gonna start getting off task. Okay, so now proactively, we have set up our classroom. We have expectations for when we do and don't talk. All the tiny little parts and pieces of our day have an expectation of, can I talk or can I not talk? So that means that anyone should be able to walk into your classroom, walk up to any student in your class and say, tell me some times of the day that you do talk and don't talk. When are some times that you're supposed to be silent versus when are times that you are talking at your table? And every single student should give you the same answer. I know that in my first year, that was not the case. I didn't even know if my students were allowed to talk or not. It was whatever. So now that we have all those things put in place proactively, let's talk about inevitably when students are going to talk. Things are slipping. Your expectations are not being met. Those kids are trying you. So like I said, your reactive strategies, what you do when there's a problem, that is what's going to make you the teacher that can command a room. End your battle with nagging and yelling. End your battle with students talking over you during lessons. That's coming from your reactive strategies, how you redirect. Because over here, we're about that life. We're not giving empty threats. We mean what we say, and our students are gonna learn that we mean what we say. They trust us, they know what to expect, we're predictable, we're consistent, we're safe. And how do we do that? With our actions. So there are like three main things that we do when we're redirecting our students, especially whenever it comes to talking. When we're redirecting, we're always going to be very swift. We're not drawing attention. We're not entering a power struggle. We are very clear about our expectations. Option number one, have them just redo whatever that procedure is. Your students come into your classroom talking, go back, try that again. Your student goes from your mini lesson on the floor back to their seat and they start talking, come back, do that again. Another option is removing the privilege of talking. So if students are taking it too far while they're talking, group work, turn and talks. You let them talk during morning work. We'll remove that privilege of talking. Next step is contacting home. So let's talk when things get out of control and it's like a whole group. You're at lunch duty. Your class is acting a fool in the hallway after specials. Your pack-up is insane. So ideally what you would do is practice that routine again. I go to pick up my class from specials, and like I said, at my campus, we are super strict about the hallway, and they're acting a fool when I come around the corner to pick them up. Guess what we're gonna do? Yep, it's a great natural consequence. We're gonna stop and we're gonna practice walking in the hallway until I have 100% meeting my expectations. Y'all wanna act a fool for 3 minutes in the hallway? We're gonna spend 3 minutes practicing in the hallway, or longer if we need to. But this will only work if you have already taught them an expectation for what they're supposed to do in the hallway. This will only work if you have taught them an expectation, a routine for what they're supposed to do at pack up. Because over here, we have taught, we have modeled, we have practiced our routines and our procedures, right? Right? If you're like, wait, what? I need to do that. How do I do that? I have a great video on that. It's called Your Routines and Procedures Will Actually Work This Time. I will link it in the description for you guys. In my experience, this is the gap that happens between teachers who teach the routines and procedures and it falling apart by like October. This video will fix that. Okay, so let's say that this was like their first offense. This is the first time that you picked them up from specials and they were acting a fool. This is the first time they got out of control, talking too loud in the cafeteria. You guys practice that routine. That's just like a natural consequence, like a teaching point. Okay, you guys obviously didn't know, like we forgot, we didn't take it seriously that my expectation is that we're silent. Now you guys know. This is what I expect. You're showing your students, nope, I expect this. We need to practice it again. Moving forward, you go to pick them up from specials again tomorrow and they're out of control. Your pack up is out of control again, even though you practiced yesterday. Now they're gonna need to practice during an inconvenient time. So whether or not that means recess for you, whether that means, okay, you guys are taking 5 minutes out of my math lesson, that means that the work that we don't finish is gonna be homework. This is coming out of our Fun Friday this week. That is also a natural consequence. We're going to practice till I see 100% of my students meeting my expectation. Or y'all messed around for this long, y'all are going to practice for this long. Maybe they need a loss of privilege. So say you're doing lunch duty and the talking gets out of control. You've practiced, they know what the expectation is. Now they need like a loss of privilege. What does that look like? Now they're silent. They were allowed to talk before, they couldn't handle it. They know what the expectation is. They need a loss of privilege. They have to be silent now. And I know what you're going to say, I'm on lunch duty. It's supposed to be silent. What do I do when kids start talking? So that's going to bring us to what do we do when like individual students are talking? So we talked about like big groups, cafeteria, hallway. Now we're going to talk about like individual students who are interrupting your lesson, individual students who are talking in the hallway, individual students who are talking during silent times. So in my experience, in my opinion, monitoring individuals for talking, monitoring individuals who are getting too loud, monitoring individuals who aren't meeting your expectations with being silent is so much easier than monitoring a whole group. If your whole group has gotten out of hand, something went wrong. Or it's like a really large group, like an assembly, a field trip, something like that. And why do I say that? Because if you're monitoring like individual students, you're keeping everyone in that top 95%. You're just picking out like a few students here and there who are not meeting your expectations. So let's go back to that lunch example where they have silent lunch. We're going to use that same strategy from Teach Like a Champion of be seen looking. If you told your students, y'all are in trouble, y'all got too crazy at lunch, I know y'all know what the expectation is, y'all chose to get too loud, now we're silent. You need to make sure that they see you're going to catch them. You're going to watch them. And if they're talking, you're going to call them out. They're going to have a consequence. This is going to be tough in the beginning because like I said, students are going to be like testing your boundaries, testing like what are you really going to do? So you have to show them, like I said, we're about that life. So you're going to show them if they choose to talk when you told them to be silent, you are going to call them out. They are going to get moved over here for a lonely lunch. They are going to get that note in their calendar. They are going to lose that dojo point, whatever it is. You have to take action. Like correcting their behavior wasn't enough. Now we need a consequence. You have to follow through on whatever consequence you and your team, you and your campus, you have decided that you're going to give. Like I said, mine is always contacting parents. They would just get like a little note in their calendar, talking during silent lunch after a warning. Or the expectation is that you're silent, like, when students come into your class in the morning, you want it silent, you want it chill. Students are working independently on their own tasks. Maybe they're silent during pack-up because we know that pack-up can devolve into chaos like so quickly. That's why I always have my students were silent during pack-up. It's a nice time for us to like wrap up our day, down-regulate, get calm, safely go where we need to go. I always put on like a nice little ASMR video. What used to be like my most dreaded time of the day easily became my favorite time of the day because it was just like, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like a ritual that we had in our classroom, like a tradition that we had in our classroom. I would pick a student to choose an ASMR video that they wanted to watch, baby animal mukbang, tiny cooking, backyard Hot Wheels races, live animal cameras. If you want to know more about that, I will link this video in the description for you guys. It will change your lives. Anyways, like I said, you catch a student talking during this time. Remember, we're monitoring, making sure that students are meeting our expectations. We're monitoring to make sure that our students are silent. Like I said, my main natural consequence, like my first line of defense is go back and try that again. A student was over there talking at his backpack hook. Go sit down. I'm gonna have you try again in just a minute. What are you gonna fix this time? That's right. They're talking during your lesson. You're gonna stop. You're gonna stop teaching. You're gonna give them like a silent redirection. Make eye contact with them. Move over to them. Point at your voice levels. Some type of like visual redirection. Because what we don't want is like drawing attention. What we don't want is like engaging in an argument. We're just gonna restate our expectation while drawing as little attention as possible. Next step, second line of defense, come sit with me. Come sit right here on the floor next to me. Yep. Come sit at this desk right here. You don't want to? Okay, I'll give you a minute to decide. Sit with me, or we can call your mom right now. Then turn your back, go about your business, do whatever you were just doing. Also, tip from Ms. Phillips, if you have to move a student because they were talking, after a warning, let their parent know, let their guardian know. We don't want that to become the norm. Talking during independent work, same thing. Give them that redirection, restate your expectation. They do it again, they come and sit with you. Remember, when you're given these redirections, we are swift. It's quick, it's painless. You're not like escalating. We're not asking rhetorical questions like, why are you talking? We're not giving students a chance to gaslight us. I wasn't even doing anything. We're not engaging in that. Restate your expectation, then give a consequence. You're losing your privilege to sit with your friends. Come sit with me. I have a video on consequences. I'll link it in the description for you guys. All right, besties, here are your key takeaways from today. First thing you're gonna do is you are gonna make a list of times that your students are allowed to talk and times that you are expecting your students to be silent. Step 2, you are either going to teach that morning meeting lesson using that chart you just made, or you are going to teach like individual routines and procedures over the course of like a few weeks, and you are going to give an expectation for if they're allowed to talk or not while teaching them that routine and procedure. You're teaching them how to turn in their papers, give an expectation on if they can talk or not. You're teaching them on how to work in their science groups, give them an expectation for talking. You're teaching them about how to complete their warm-up, give an expectation for talking. Third thing you're gonna do, nail down that attention getter. Promise me. I'm telling you, that is the most slept on secret. Fourth thing you're gonna do, you are monitoring for your students meeting your expectations so that you can maintain that top 95%. Remember, we're not letting our classes devolve into 50% of them, half of them are meeting our expectations. We're making sure by catching all those little things that our students are meeting our expectations 95% of the time. The last piece is you are gonna redirect every single time. Every single student, every single time. You're doing it swiftly. They're either redoing that routine or they're losing a privilege. Okay, speaking of talking and like what it looks like in the classroom, on the post-dismissal debrief after this, I'm gonna give you guys a case study of a 5th grade teacher who her life was falling apart by like late August. It was like 4 weeks into the school year and we were calling the office every day. We were having fights. It was out of control. So I'm gonna talk about like what was going on, what we did to fix it, what that looked like in her classroom. Also, last post-dismissal debrief, I talked about a viral video that I had about like behavior management red flags, and this went viral for a negative reason. People were coming for my throat. This time, I'm gonna talk to you guys about another negative viral video that I had. It was about things that I would slap new teacher me for doing, first year teacher me for doing. It was like a list of things. I thought if anything, people were gonna be mad about the one about recess. No, I was shocked immediately, overnight, woke up to a million different comments telling me that I was what's wrong with society these days. So I'm gonna go over that on the post-dismissal debrief. I hope you guys join us. I will link it in the description for y'all. It's just like a behind the scenes extension of what we're already doing on this video. I hope you guys will join us, and if not, I'll see y'all next time. Also, don't forget that homework, it's due tomorrow.